Here we go. Good evening, Gary. How are you doing?
Greetings, Script. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. I'm happy to have you here to talk about your latest venture into indie comics, the fantastic story which I had the honor of reading a great deal of pages of, called Vindicated Inc. And I'm happy to have you here to talk to myself and everyone out there watching about this comic and the plans you have for it. Yeah. So thanks for coming on tonight to
Well, you
pitch
bet.
this.
And I've already let the cat out of the bag that you are my editor on this project. That you are probably one of, uh, and this isn't bragging. This is just one of those things. I love you, and just having you in my life has been one of those wonderful things because I get you. And I said today, I told Brandon, I said the thing I like about Script Doctor is he gets me. He understands what's going on upstairs in my head. And to meet people like that and have them in my life, I think is wonderful. And I just want to work with you on everything.
Well,
And
I'm
I kind
very
of alluded to, and
yeah.
we can discuss it here, that one of the things, the options that you and I have talked about previously is that you and I partner up with my books, and that I add my books to your imprint as you try to build your imprint.
Yeah, a little bit here and there. I mean, it's for what I can do on YouTube with the YouTube channel, for the stuff that I do with consults privately. For those who've been following me for a while, they know that this year I've been hired to work on 3 independent books. They haven't been announced yet. This one was kind of the 4th one that we're saving for today, where I'm helping Gerry on that part. But right now, this show is mostly about you and this book and where it started from.
Right.
Um, so, guys, the link to check out some of the details of this book is right here. It's pinned in the chat. So you feel free to pop that up while we're going through the general basics here. But Gerry, for those that are learning about this for the first time, please tell us the basic pitch for Vindicated Inc.
Well, I can. The thing that's really nice is I wrote it onto the website, so I can. I go to that as my go-to thing. It saves me a lot of trouble. It's what I wrote for Tom when he did the trailer, and I just basically say the Vindicated Inc. story is meet the Seattle vigilante. Like so many comic book heroes, this warrior hides his identity, but his identity isn't the only secret that he has to keep. After grievous wounds received during combat, Tier 1 operator John Russell begins to recover and come to terms with his new reality of being an amputee. And as he learns how to use his new prosthetic limb, he finds himself caught up in the bureaucratic red tape that too many wounded veterans experience, the exhausting med board process. Out of sheer frustration, John takes it out on the criminal scum of the city. But when reality kicks in, John realizes that he started something that is having an impact on the greater world around him, and thus has to reevaluate his motives. And moreover, how far is he willing to go to weed out crime and corruption in this city? And just how far is he going to have to go? So, and that's pretty much it. Is he willing to give his life to fight these criminals? Because it gets larger. It's not like street thugs, and that's how it starts. Like a guy
Mhm.
robbing a convenience store, but he discovers there's a real crime syndicate in this town, and there are powerful people funding it. And he explains when he does an interview with the local newspaper reporter. He says, I'm not going to be Bernie Getz and just wait for people. I'm going to find these people, and I'm going to work my way into a vein until I get to the heart, and I'm going to cut the heart out. I'm declaring real war on these people. Someone's going to fucking die. And he meant it. And he knows he's scary when he's talking to this reporter. Scares the shit out of this reporter.
Well, he's
And
still wearing his military gear, like his identity
he's
is still.
totally
Let's
geared up. He's hiding
read
who
that
he is.
context. So before
Yeah.
we go any further, the general concept for people out there is a disgruntled vet, while venting his frustration, pokes the bear, and the bear responds. And now it's kind of a back and forth type of triad where he is kind of getting in over his head with things and has to kind of use all of his military training, his own sense of guile, to not just stay ahead of them, but also seeing the good that his actions, by in part accident, are having a ripple effect in his community, in his neighborhood, and outside further, are having a positive ripple effect.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he now has fallen into a level of responsibility he was not ever prepared for. And I think that's a really fantastic story because it is type of an accidental protagonist type of arc where one action of passion has now just unraveled and snowballed effect into something much bigger than he ever could have imagined. And it leads the question, which is, well, now that he starts figuring out how these mechanisms are working in this society around him, one, does he feel like he actually has an ability to stop it, and two, are the odds really against him as you'd expect them to be? And I like the fact that you challenge those aspects in your story.
Well, in the story itself, it's based on an actual argument that took place, or discussion, a
Mhm.
debate of how Batman or Punisher would work in a real world. And I said the only way that the Punisher and even Batman could work, they couldn't create a paper trail that leads back to them.
Right.
And so therefore, everything that might, because I always worry about logic issues with stories. Batman Begins, all of those things. There were all these things that would lead back to Bruce Wayne, everything. And I'm like, he was going to get caught. It was inevitable. Same thing goes with the Punisher. I mean, that's why people know who he is. He's Frank Castle. So he's constantly having to change positions of where he's at. Whereas this guy can walk out in public and people have no idea who the hell he is. And there's a statement made by a character in the script, the part of the script you've never gotten to see because I haven't drawn it yet, where the guy says, if you want to not be seen, be a disabled homeless veteran. Uh, Disabled homeless veteran
Right.
on the street. Nobody will notice you. And that's how he actually gets around. And he's able to spy on people. Plus, he's got two guys helping him. And one guy's job is to help him with the armor and weapons. And the other guy's job is to make sure that he's able to get information, tech, and stuff like that. And that's the character it's based on my grandfather because he shakes. He's got the shakes really bad from his PTSD, shell shock, as they used to call it. But
So he's got a team, not quite
he
like the A
builds a
team,
team.
not
Yeah,
quite
not
like
quite
the A
the A
team,
team,
but he's got a
because they're
small
all
team.
disabled vets, all of them.
All of them are disabled vets, and that's the angle here, is that you've got these disabled vets who, despite their disability, can still accomplish a lot, even though there's that stigma that because they're disabled in whatever capacity, they are no longer able to actually do anything in society. And there's a society that's trying to enable that perspective that these guys are actively fighting against. Because I remember you have a scene in your book where they're kind of talking, they're in council, and the council is clearly not
Yes,
helping any of them.
therapist.
Yeah.
Yep. And the therapist is under orders by a very shadowy character that tells him, even if he passes, he fails. Are we clear? And we don't know who this guy is, and I'm not going to explain it in book one. This is a mystery that goes on through the trilogy. It does get answered finally at the end of book two, who this guy is.
Mhm.
But and it's not what anybody thinks. Well, I'm not going to say that. Maybe some
Well,
people figure it out.
without spoiling it, and do your best if you can, if not talk about the antagonist, the general concept of what the antagonists are trying to accomplish with the power that they have, so that we actually understand the stakes and what this main character is actually in for.
Well, you have read the prologue scene I wrote
Yes.
because that's Rollins. Rollins is one of the bad guys. And that scene is meant to set up the overall story arc with his character or his character arc, what he's trying to do. He is out for a power play. And the main villain in this story is a guy by the name of Hammond, who's a businessman, entrepreneur. He puts money into buildings. He's the one who funds the veterans home in downtown Seattle. It's a fictional place. And this all takes place around 2012 to 2014 is when the story takes place. So it's long before all the problems that Seattle had in recent years. And basically, the other thing that he starts doing, and we talk because you brought up the crime thing, and I brought it up in the explanation that he's fighting crime. He begins like fighting small crime, and then I'm like, he's got to understand he's having a greater impact. So he's like, if I'm going to do this, I have to get serious about this. I need a plan. So I'm going to work my way up the food chain, or the, as he puts it, a vein, and I'm going to find my way to a heart and cut that heart out, and I'll just keep doing that. And eventually they'll run out of people to replace him with, because he's going to kill the powerful people that are funding all of this and benefiting from it financially and in other ways. But it leads him to a situation where he rescues those two girls. And he finds out when he does that, that this gang that he's dealing with has a deeper business, which is human trafficking.
Mhm.
And the whole sex trafficking thing, which I've
But and
learned thanks.
this is the turning point, if I recall correctly in his story, where he's not just doing it out of the basic principle and just trying to occupy his time
It
in
becomes a
between.
mission,
It becomes the mission, yeah.
and he's like, "I'm going to kill these motherfuckers. I'm going to find these people, free these people, and kill anybody who benefits from it." And it's like the recent film Sound of Freedom. You know, uh, when I saw that movie, I'm like, "Oh my god, finally a movie talking about what I've been talking about with this story." And it becomes his thing. Whereas though down the line, he's going to have to do other things that he you know I can't tell this
Then
part because it's going to
don't
give
don't
away too
spoil it.
much.
Leave
Yeah, I
that for
can't.
now. We're gonna jump here because Angelo Frederick super chatted $10 saying good evening script. Thank you so much, Angelo, for that. It's greatly appreciated here. We're gonna jump over quickly to the actual campaign itself. Uh, so here we have there's your little image here. Vindicated Inc. Currently, it looks like we have 31 backers. I'm gonna do a quick refresh here to see if that's
We had our
updated.
first $500 campaign backer today. Uh,
Yeah,
and there's two 500 campaign tiers. The one that they got, and I'm going to contact them. I'm like, "Are you sure you got the one you want?" Because there are two $500 ones, and the second one includes the I think it's 1/6 scale or 1/8 or 1/12 scale
it's a 1/6
maquette.
scale maquette of
Yeah,
John M.
that's it,
Battle
one
Damage.
six.
Yep.
And there's a limit of 10 of those. And my future son-in-law is the one who's going to be producing these for me. And my buddy Kendall Hart, who is an artist out of the St. Louis area, is the one that's going to produce the artwork for me.
Which is
And
awesome.
he's doing, by the way, if you scroll back up to the battle damage mask, where he's standing there and he says he's surrounded, right
Mhm.
there. That's the maquette. He's going to do that pose.
That's awesome. So let's get into the tiers to see what interested parties can get
The
from
basic
this.
$10 one is you don't get a thank you in the book. You just get a thank you on the page, and you get to contribute, and you get a PDF copy of the book. The next tier is $15. It's the same as the $10, but you actually get a thank you in the book.
And you've got a dedicated thank you page or pages,
Yes, it's
depending on
called
how
the
many
back
people.
door. It's called the backdoor thank you page, and that's because of Polly. God, that son of a bitch. I love Polly.
Yep.
Starting that whole backdoor Gary thing. And then each one goes up a little gradually, all the
Mhm.
way up to about 50, and then I start making larger jumps.
Right. So we got the tier 2. This is the printed copy of Vindicated Inc. graphic novel. So
Very
this is your
simple.
physical,
Yep.
very
And all
simple.
copies of the book that I send out will be signed.
And here's the other part too that's also good because it's a great value for the price. Because you said the story is how many pages?
155.
155 pages for a $25 graphic novel. That is a very good price. It's very competitive, and I think that's a real bang for your buck when it
It'll be
comes
more
to indie
expensive
comics.
when the store opens because it's such a big book. But the
Yeah.
fact is I'm going to give it to them at basically it's almost at cost at this point. Um, but the shipping's not charged yet either, and I want to point that out because I don't know how much these are going to cost, and so I couldn't set it up for shipping up front. So I put, if you see the little asterisk there, it explains when the
Yep.
book is finished drawn and printed is when it ships, and shipping will be charged at that time, and I will invoice each person. And I got to make sure they're giving me their emails because otherwise I don't know how to contact them. So it's going to be important that they make sure they give me their email to contact them when they do these purchases for
So
these
yeah,
tiers.
because when they do the purchase, they should get an email confirmation. And can they just reply to that, or is there another means in the confirmation
I
for
don't
that?
know. This is my first time using uh, Fund My Comics, and these guys are really great. I've had talks with the head guy and one of the guys who helped me when I had a problem, and these guys get people like you and me.
Mhm.
that we don't want to use Indiegogo and Kickstarter because they punish people like us who don't fall into lockstep with their thinking, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
They won't punish us. They're really pro the way you and I think, and how we stand for things. Like I stand for a patriotic character. Indiegogo and Kickstarter would probably have a problem with my character today, this character in this book. Oh, you've got a guy that's patriotic. You're clearly right wing fanatic. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm going to lose my money. They won't, Fund My Comic
Yeah.
won't do that. And I love these guys. They're really nice. But I still don't quite understand how they have everything set up. This is my first time back doing it. And it's a learning curve. I got to tell
Well,
you, it's
then
different than it used to be.
Well, then I strongly suggest that if you guys have donated or are interested in donating, check out Gary over on not just Pop Culture Minefield, but if you go to Twitter, X, what have you, you can follow him over there on Twitter. His handle is at Gerry Kissell. I'll be putting that in the chat.
Here,
Um,
I'll write it out for you so you
I
don't
already
have
got
to. Oh, you
it.
got it? Okay.
Yep. I already have it. So you can follow him here or just at him uh, so that he can uh, basically circumvent any type of hiccups that could happen when it comes to shipping and shipping rates and what have you there. Um, Listen, it's all about the due diligence, and one of the things that I like about you, Gary, is that your desire for proper logic and detail compels you to actually get these resolved before things get hairy.
I
So
mean,
that
yeah, it's like it's not just with the storytelling, it's with everything. Everything is based in logic for me, and I always want to do things the smartest way.
yeah, and you know what? I think this is a great step. I really dig the art. So if you could give us a before we go into more of the tiers and get into some of the cool benefits that come with those tiers, um, can you share with the audience a little bit of your process and how you go about framing your panels and character designs, so that you know you can basically showcase the talents that you've built over the years?
Well, I started out to be a filmmaker, and I approach everything like a film director, and visually, I look at things. I frame all my scenes. I do all my blocking off of the way you would block a film. And in fact, one of the best compliments I ever got was from filmmaker Josh Becker, who read one of my books and said, "You really are a director. You do really good blocking and framing." And I said, "Well, I think cinematically, and this is meant to look like a movie because I want it to be a movie. That's the goal, is to make this book and then you know get it turned into a film." Which is why one of my partners on this book, he's not really my partner with the book. He's partner with my name, with the name of the story, and he's partnered for when it is pitched as a film. And in that process, Kurt Yeager has first right of a refusal to play the lead character, John, the vigilante, because I drew him into the book. The actor, I have, I think, close to 8 actors that are in the book who signed likeness agreements with me for me to use their
Awesome.
faces.
So then
And
that's where you base the models off the certain characters that you envision seeing this live action. You
oh
reached
yeah,
out to them to as your models as well for this. Well, that's pretty awesome. And yeah, you talk about cinematic. That's the eye of a director and the eye of a cinematographer, keeping things framed well. So let's just move on a little bit here. So for the $35 tier,
and oh, but wait, before you get to 35, if you look there to the left, those two blue highlighted lines
yep,
there, you can download 2 of the chapters and read them for free.
right. So this is great. So you've actually got the option to get a taste of the story to sell you on committing its completion, and I think that's a great angle to have here because anyone that's apprehensive can actually take a look and see for the work itself and base it on its own merits. And I like that you got chapter 1 and chapter 3. We don't have to reveal why there's no chapter 2 because we both know the reason for that. Let's
Yeah,
keep that close to the chest because I want to build the intrigue more. Because
right.
I want your audience who might be interested in this to actually really fall in love with chapter 1 and then see the stuff that you do in chapter 3 and then ask the question, well, what happened in chapter 2 and what's going to happen at the end?
Do you want me to say?
I want you to keep it like that. Don't spoil it. Just leave it like as it is, but
Okay, just
allow.
leave it as is and not say. I
Yeah.
will say this: you're introduced in chapter 2 to Frank Tedesco, the cop who's going to head up the uh, Seattle Vigilante Task Force
Mhm.
because they believe it is. He believes it's one guy, and we'll leave it there.
But I think it's good to leave it there because, again, we don't want to give too much away. We want you all to buy the book, and we want you to talk about the book and share your thoughts about it, not just with Gerry, but with other people that you think also might be interested as well. So you have this wonderful option where you can actually preview 2 out of the is it when we last talked, was it gonna be 4 or 5 chapters?
It's going to be 5 chapters plus a prologue,
Plus
which
a
you've read the
prologue. Okay.
prologue,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
you liked that prologue. You liked what I did there.
I yeah, I'm not spoiling it.
Okay,
Sorry. If you guys out there are interested in what this story could be, you will have to invest. Um, so I just wanna
and the
preface
$35
that way.
one is the graphic novel, printed, signed copy of the book, plus a glossy bookmark with artwork on it.
Which yep, great thing to have. And listen, not a lot of people need bookmarks for comics, but it's good to have an extra bookmark around. I've got maybe 2 or 3 dozen all in books right now that I'm in the midst of reading, and I need more. I've actually got a ruler being used as one more for another book I'm reading. So more bookmarks are always good. Now we're getting into the $50 tier, tier 4.
Yep.
So explain to the audience what they can get with a $50 investment
Well, I'm
into your
adding
book.
more tiers. So the tier 4, I don't know if that's even right at this point because I'm adding extra tiers. And I thought they would allow me to edit them, but once somebody contributes to that tier, I can't edit it anymore, add anything
Mhm,
to it, or take away from anything in it. And I understand why it makes sense. Once again,
mhm.
I'm logic driven. But this tier, you get a printed copy of the graphic novel, you get the bookmark, and you get a signed 11 by 17 full color art print.
Nice. And
And
so, are you going to be revealing anytime soon the sample of what that art print is going to look like, or is it going to be a?
well, I have a lot of alternate covers, and those covers are technically also pinups. And so it could be any one of the covers I've done. I like doing additional artwork
Mhm.
because there's one I haven't shown anybody other than it's been on my personal Twitter account. That's not done yet. I would say it's about 80% inked. It's got about another 30% of inking that needs to be done on it, and then I'll color it. And the only thing that's going to be colored, by the way, and you know this, is the cover and pinup work. The comic book, I decided a long time ago, and I talked to Brett. He's a colorist friend of mine that's on. I think you've met Brett. He's a major colorist in the comic industry, and we talked about it at length. And I just finally came to the conclusion it doesn't look right in color. It takes something away from it when it's in color. There's something about the stark black and white artwork that really helps this story move forward. There's no color to confuse the eye.
Mhm.
It's what you're supposed to be looking at, and I'm very clear in my artwork what I'm drawing. And because as you scroll down further, you'll see I put samples of some of the pages in here,
Oh
so
yeah,
you can
I think
see.
it's very deliberate. It doesn't overstimulate the senses. And what I really like is how, especially with your captions here, you really allow the eye to follow where you're going, and
Yep,
you don't put in any confusion with the word bubbles or with the captions on your layouts, which I always appreciated, because sometimes you'll get 2 people talking and you'll have the the speech bubbles in a weird order to the point where you can't discern which one is speaking first because the phrasing of the context is not positioned properly. It's because
right.
they're more concerned about just getting the bubbles in the frame as opposed to trying to tell the story that's on the page with the image. And that's one of the things I really appreciated here, especially how you do your angles, how you incorporate
This is stolen from Graham Nolan. He knows. He gave me permission.
This
This is
shot,
an
yeah.
angle from The Phantom when he was doing the Phantom comic book, and it was actually a different, slightly different angle, and it's on an arabesque building with palm trees. It's in the Middle East somewhere
Mhm.
or North Africa. And I just loved what he did there. And I said, I'm stealing that and I'm going to use it on Vindicated. And he's like, okay. So
All right. And then, so getting into the next tier, we've got the $100 tier.
100. Yep.
So let's share with the audience the benefits that they get from investing $100 in Vindicated.
You get a copy of the book. You get the color, full color glossy bookmark. You get the signed 11x17 color pinup art print. And then you get the ball cap and pin.
Cool. So you got like a chest pin and then baseball
Yeah,
cap.
yeah. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go externally for that because I've got friends that print those pins, and I kind of like the idea that I have a little more control over it when I go through people I know,
Mhm.
and I want to make sure it looks right before I go sending it out.
Awesome. So we're gonna have some quality control on some of these tchotchkes that are joining joining your
Yeah,
book, which is great.
I'll be doing the color prints too. I'll be in charge of that. I'll be watching over it, and I'm known for rejecting art prints. If I don't like the blacks on it, and I know that sounds racist, I'm just talking about the black inks. If the black inks don't blend well with the color, I will reject that stuff. I'm like, don't give me that crap. I want the good stuff. I want it to look clean, no lines in it.
Mhm.
Um, and that's going to be that one. And then the 201, you can. This is a separate one, kind of all by itself. Be drawn into the book as a character, and you get a signed copy of the graphic novel itself. And that's it.
Which it's pretty cool. So they send you
You
photo
and you can
references
gift
and
it.
yeah.
You can gift it out to somebody else. Only 10 of those are available. And I kind of thought that would be cool because I've done that before for Iron Sky when I did Iron Sky for I forgot the name of that company in Norway. And they're great guys. They're great guys. I'm friends with all of the production team. And we decided that it would be kind of a way to help uh, fund the movie is to draw fans into the comic book, make them characters in the book, for a couple of scenes.
Yeah. And Iron Sky, not only is it a really fascinating book, it's quite a hysterical comedy.
Yeah,
It's real.
they
It's
kept
your
some of
classic.
my ideas in there too.
Oh yeah, like it's very
The
schlocky,
cow,
deliberately so, very ridiculous. It leans into it, and it works for what they're trying to do.
because the
Um,
original idea for the comic book, when I pitched it to him, I said I want to do a comic book that shows over the decades every single UFO incident was them fucking something up. And that the cattle mutilations were because they were trying to get the cows into the UFO and they kept dropping them or dragging them and they would get torn up. And they kept the cow in there. The cow is in the book.
yep.
And there's another scene too that I came up with, but they didn't want to go all the way into that. They wanted to actually tell a good story. And I'm like, okay, I was wanting to do a narrative thing where it's not a character, it's just a bunch of incidents being narrated by an investigator. But they went with actual storytelling to connect it to the movie. And I went, that works for me too. I'm happy with that. And I worked directly with the screenwriter. And it turned out really good. And I love the movie. I was supposed to do the second one, but they couldn't afford me. And so it just didn't happen. But
But now we're
uh
getting into the higher
500.
part. So
The
as you
first
mentioned
500.
earlier, the first 500 tier uh,
You
comes
get a
with a
pretty
printed
yeah.
copy. Go on, sir.
It's the printed copy of the book, bookmark, signed art print, commissioned original art. You can commission me to draw whatever the freak you want. And then you also get ball cap and pen. And then there's the second $500 one, which you get drawn into the book. You get a 1/6 maquette of the John battle damage armor and a signed copy of the graphic novel.
All right. And then now we're getting into
This is the
uh,
big one.
the big one here. Let's go into the details of this for potential potential investors, customers.
Yeah, you get a 1/6 scale maquette of John in battle damage armor. You get a printed copy of the graphic novel and bookmark signed with the 11 by 17 pinup art, commissioned art. You also get to be drawn into the book, ball cap pin, T-shirt, and I'm debating whether it should be T-shirt or a hoodie because Shinatsky was one who suggested maybe you should do a hoodie. Steven even suggested that. Fat Steven
Mhm.
suggested a hoodie because people really like those. With the artwork fully emblazoned on it, and that's it. And if more needs to be on that, I'll add it there if somebody thinks I should add more.
Yeah.
And by the way, over to the left here,
Mhm.
I wanted to point something out because Kill List is the first film and or show to ever show a shoulder switch of a weapon by a special forces person. And I'm actually, I think I'm the first person to show it, period, because I show it here in this chapter. When he's coming down that, he drops down,
Mhm.
going out the door, coming down backwards down the stairs. I am establishing he's right handed. Then cut to the next page, and what is he doing?
Switches to his left.
He switches to his left hand and he's taking shelter behind a wall to his right. And I didn't show him switch, but I showed that he has switched. And that is important because the better trained you are in combat with your weapon, the better you are at switching arms. Because when you're going upstairs or downstairs and you have to train on a target, you're going to have to shift shoulders sometimes in order to keep trained on that object that you're aimed at. And it's something that we learned when doing breaching into buildings is that you have to sometimes do it. And right now, I have him doing what's called the one-handed spray and pray, where he's taking cover behind that wall and just firing around the corner down there in the bottom panel
Mhm.
against these mercs. These are well-trained mercs. And finally, he points out something that was said to me by my sergeant in the army. He says, "Hey, when all else failed, you're cornered. Go grenade bowling. Just
Yep.
start throwing frags." And I'm like, "I like the way you think, Sergeant." And so that's what he does.
All right. And that's all the tiers. Am I missing one?
Nope, that's it. But I'm
That's
probably
it.
going to edit that last one and add some more stuff. And on the one $500 one, I'm probably going to switch that because that was originally supposed to be 1/12 scale, not 1/6
Supposed to be a bit
scale.
bigger. Okay.
Yeah, and nobody's bid on that one yet, so I can switch it out because otherwise I got to commit to that. But we're going to be doing a handful of 1/6 scale and a handful of 1/12 scale, and the artwork's going to look good no matter what.
Well, I mean, just looking at these samples right here from the actual book itself, I mean, it's clear, lots of detail, um, lots of balance between the text and the image, so it doesn't feel like it's too much. The onomatopoeia effects here, really well
Yeah, I
done.
make
Like,
up my own. I make up my own because I know what the weapons sound like, and so I'm coming up with my own words to represent the sound. Like "blam" is your classic right there
yeah.
because that is a 45 he's firing there, top loaded 45. I mean, top eject 45. It's a really nice weapon, but I his main weapon that he uses handgun is actually a Colt Commander, and that's not what's drawn in there. It will you'll see it later because he keeps that on his chest later, the 45, because it's for when things get up close and personal, and he needs a weapon that's going to knock him down with one shot. He doesn't need to be having to pump 3 shots into him to take him down.
Which is pretty darn cool. So, guys, there you have it. That is, those are the basics when it comes to Vindicated Inc. There's a nice picture of Richard Bonk, who
That's my buddy. Yeah,
I had a pleasure of meeting earlier this summer. Who was a cool guy. Um,
he's a
so,
veteran too.
so the next thing that I'm going to ask is that so we've got this showcase of the art. Sorry, we've got a little bit of tips when it comes to the hero John and the villain. So then the big question that I want to explore to help invigorate this campaign a little bit more is What is like? And we're going to do this in a hypothetical because I don't want it to spoil the book. So, what happens if Vindicated? If John wins with his little philosophy, or what happens if he loses? So,
Well,
can you
here's the
like
thing.
tippy toe around those answers a little?
I'm a realist in my writing that even when you win, you lose something. And so there's always a cost to everything you do. Knowledge is also one of the things that is gleaned in the storytelling of this, that as things progress from book 1 to book 2 and book 3, because there'll be 3 graphic novels total that for this story arc, the full arc, that basically he's changed by everything that's happening. And he is actually more driven to do what he's doing. And I can't tell you why, because you just
Mhm.
got to find it out by reading the books.
Exactly.
That he is, and also, I should point out too, because there you are on that lush artwork right there. I penciled that, and that was inked by Drew Moss from IDW, a friend of mine. And I think it's wonderful artwork, but it is nowhere in any of the books. That scene. It's just one of those things. I always like the movie trailers that show you moments in the movie that actually aren't in the movie. They're scenes that were edited out.
Hmm.
And I kind of do that with my covers, that I'm trying to give you an idea of who John is, and him surrounded in flame, ready to fight, tells you who John is. I think it visually tells you.
Well, that's great. So the question on everyone's mind now that they've seen what the tiers entail and what is coming out, um, do you have a schedule on when you're going to release some of the images of, say, the maquettes and the T-shirts and the pins for
I'm
people?
hoping that by the end of this month we'll have some images
Great.
um, from Kindle, because Kindle's the sculptor who's going to be putting it together. And I'm talking to him, and I'm paying him out of my pocket. So I'm nervous about that. And but he's working with me because he's known me for a long time. We've been friends for over 20 years. So I'm grateful that he's going to be helping. And Kendall Hart's an amazing artist, dude. He really is a sculptor, and he does a lot of 3D work and works in 3D as well as working with his hands, doing real sculpture. So he's one of those people that's already learned how to sculpt in 3D, and that's what he's going to be doing with me, is working in 3D to sculpt this. And then my son-in-law, future son-in-law, is going to, because I'm positive my daughter is going to marry this guy. He's so great. I like this kid. I hope he's not watching. I don't want him to know how much I like him. Um, but he's going to be doing the printing of these things in resin. And resin, once it cures, it's harder than PVC,
Yeah.
and I like that. And he's going to be making these, and I think it's going to be really nice, and it's going to be probably one of the best parts of the tiers is getting these statues vindicated.
So, guys, if you guys are interested, head on over to the link that's pinned in the comment to fundmycomic.com/campaign/Vindicated Inc. If I'm saying that correctly, I'm pretty sure that's how it is. Yep, that's how it is. Campaign/363 Vindicated Inc. The campaign ends on the 27th of January 2024.
But
So
it'll become a store at that point. And
yes,
then
so
when that happens, I'm going to make the maquettes available alone. You can just buy them.
yeah. Oh, that's really cool. So yeah. So basically that's till the campaign ends and it becomes the store page. And then I'm assuming after that the plan would be, if anyone wants to get the comic post the campaign date time, and after it's already gone to print and shipped out, they'll still be able to order it through you directly.
Yep.
That's the plan.
Yep.
It's a good plan.
And eventually, and this is just the printing, it's not the publishing, because the publishing will come later. Uh, if we're able to, you and I are able to work something out to where we can partner up and do something, that'll be great. But I know, like Graham Nolan's Compass printing company, publishing company, has been interested in it for a while. And so if you don't want to do that, I'll just end up going with something like Graham Nolan because he's a good friend of mine. I like him a lot.
I mean, listen, I've got that connection to that one publisher that might be interested. If that works for you, that's cool. If not, I'm always like, just go for the one that gives you the best deal, man. That's how I'm at it.
Yeah, because I'm not going to
Especially,
go to IDW or any of those guys again because they screwed me pretty bad over work in the past. Because I've been published on quite a few books and I didn't see hardly anything out of it. And it's like they
yeah.
make sure they get their money back, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to deal with you guys anymore. I'm just going to do a lot of this myself. If I go to a publisher, it's going to be either self-publishing or going to a publisher that's a friend of mine. And you know the rule I have now: I don't work with anybody unless we're friends.
There
It's
you
just
have
a
it,
simple
guys.
rule.
So, guys, if you've been listening out there, get in your questions now with regards to this book while we vamp a little bit so that we can uh, just do this nice, tight show and wrap up, say, in next 15 minutes or so. We already have a comment here from Neil who says the layout and art look great.
Thank you.
I concur. Read by nature is pretty happy. It's like personally, I went with the floppy tier because it's always best to have in hand phrasing. Yes.
Well,
Uh,
he said floppy, and what floppy means is a single comic, a 18 to 24 page floppy. This is not. This is going to be. It's going to be paperback, but it's going to be a graphic novel. It'll be have the what's that called? I forgot the binding.
Perfect
Pure
binding.
perfect binding, and so it's not quite a floppy. It's going to be heavy. You could probably kill somebody with it. Not that I'm recommending it. The other thing that's on that page, by the way, if you scroll back down, is the military story that inspired it. If anybody want to read it, go there. You can look at it. You can actually look this up online. It's a true story that happened in 1989, and U.S. Army Rangers took on um, local chapter of a major street gang, and the street gang did not win. It was
All right.
bad.
So we have some extra details here from Anima Confusa, who says if you contribute to the campaign, you get an email with the receipt and both an email and telephone number to contact Gerry. So
Oh,
there
I
we
didn't know
go.
that. Oh,
That's good. So any type of concerns with regards to shipping or parts of the tier that you've done, you will have direct access to Gerry so that he can resolve that for you. So
yeah, because
that's
I talk. That's always been the way I work. I'm very direct. I like talking like to our audience. I become friends with our audience, because I like that. I just like talking to people and getting to know them. And if you've got questions, concerns, I'm always open to be talked to. Period.
And then we have Squeaka Mouse says, so excited. I love listening to talk about this and more excited to get it. Thank you for making this.
Oh, of
Uh,
course, Squeaker. I was
yeah.
compelled to make this. This is a work of passion. And I got to be honest, script. You know all the ideas in my head. You
Mhm.
and I've talked about many of my
As
ideas.
scary as they are sometimes. Yes, absolutely.
I consider this probably the best thing I'm ever going to make. I'm going to make some good stuff. I
Mhm.
am, but nothing is ever going to be as important as this subject.
Which I think is fantastic because there's a personal aspect to it for you. It definitely draws on your experience as a combat vet and medical vet, um, which again, everyone out there should be thanking you for your volunteered service with that as well, because it's quite a sacrifice to make. And the other part too is that it's a great angle on a character who, a disabled vet who has lost a leg, because as we've seen in some of the images here, especially this one shot, which where are you? Oh, uh, there it is, right here. Where he's getting his leg blown off.
He's got a chunk of his leg. That's his prosthetic leg getting,
Yes.
and it ends up. It's important to the story what happened there. That little tiny fuck up, it causes a problem later, and I'm not going to say how.
And I
But
like the fact that it's a good angle for a secret identity. And it reminds me very much of, Daredevil, how a blind lawyer is never going to be thought of as a a reflexive acrobatic
Oh, and there's
superhero.
definitely a lot of Daredevil in this because
Mhm.
my favorite comic book characters growing up were Daredevil, Spider-Man, Batman, and the Punisher. And then eventually, when I got introduced to him around 1980, was Wolverine. But they all have a little something in common. But my favorite superheroes are the ones that actually don't have superpowers. Like Daredevil doesn't really, he can't stop a bullet.
No.
He's flesh, he can't fly. Batman and the Punisher, human,
Mhm.
and they're heroes in their own way. Even though technically Frank Castle's an anti-hero, he's a
Well,
hero.
Frank Castle's not only an anti-hero, he's a tragic hero. He
Very tragic.
and
And this
that's what I like
character,
about him.
and if you read one of those chapters, God judges his heroes by their scars is the name of the chapter. And I've got compliments over my chapter titles, and a lot of times they're nods to music, song titles. That one is actually a nod to Michael Kamen and from Lethal Weapon 3 when
Oh,
there's a
the
little
movie they
song.
didn't know so much going on.
Yeah, there's a scene in the movie where Rene Russo and Riggs are showing off their scars, and the name of that song is something about scars and heroes. And I liked it so much that I did my own version of that, and so it
Mhm.
was inspired. The title of this chapter was inspired by Lethal Weapon, the music of Lethal Weapon, and a leg to stand on. That just popped out of my head because I thought it was an ironic statement because, of course, he's on a prosthetic leg.
Yep. Uh,
And Out of the Past is another one that's from a classic 40s noir
mhm.
thriller.
That is from,
Uh,
Robert
with
Mitchum.
Robert Mitchum
Yep.
and Kirk
Oh, yeah.
Douglas is the bad guy.
Oh, and they
Um,
had great banter in that movie, but that's
oh,
for another stream, of course.
oh
Read by
yeah.
Nature has a compliment for you. It's not a question. Just wanted to point out that there's a shot of the protagonist in full gear coming out of the shadow where his eyes or shades really look almost emotive. Um, that's the level of artwork you get with Gerry when you hire him on your stuff.
Well, I'm trying to convey an idea, you
Yep.
know, and I wanted to show it's what you're seeing, and I know the one you're talking about. I think I know the one you're talking about, where he's heating up the blade on his combat knife, and you can see the glow in his goggles. He's wearing Oakleys, is what he's wearing. They're ballistic Oakleys, right there. You just went past it.
Oh,
It's the bottom panel of that page.
there we go.
Is
Yeah,
that
right
the one
here.
you're talking about? Because I wanted to show the glow on the Oakleys.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
good
the
good transition here, right here.
I like shit like that. Bad Gary, bad, Tim says, with a leg to stand on.
Hey,
Um,
dude, puns work. I mean, that's the thing.
the final image from that page is him standing in the shower with his prosthetic leg, or with his no prosthetic on his leg. It's just his stump
Mhm.
as he stands in the shower after the hell of a day he's had.
We have a comment from Neil, which is pretty good. He says, I do like how you wear your influences on your sleeve. That's usually, I find a rare, find are a key to good stories. Also, my favorite superheroes are the magic and mythological ones like Doctor Strange, Thor, etc. Those are good ones as well. I like certain magic heroes also because there's that potential for it, and it also comes to like knowledge and skill as opposed to just one or the other. Like one of the things that's actually been detrimental to the superhero genre recently, not just in the books but also in television, is you have the heroes, the brawn, and they have this large team that fills in all the other attributes that normally a hero or a superhero would have. I was really thankful when I was reading the chapters you sent me that your hero he's doing a lot of his stuff on his own, and he only requires the other two guys for very specific details that
Yeah,
he
because
can't
they
do
get
while he's
more
in the field.
involved later. They're
Mhm.
helping with stuff, but they're I didn't want them too directly involved at first because he's one of those guys, just like me. I we t- you know Independent soldier types have a tendency of trying to carry the burden themselves, but then he finds out I really do need your help to get this stuff done and done correctly. And they tend to get mad at him too. As the story progresses, they'll get mad at him if he doesn't tell them something, because he gets in trouble for this incident right here you're looking at now.
Mhm.
Bill and the other character, I forget his name right now, I forget one of my own characters, are pissed at him that he went and did this without them flying the drone over to keep an eye on him. He says, I couldn't help it. I got mad, and I just had to go out and find this place. He says, yeah, but you could have been killed. And you needed our eyes in the sky because they watch over. They give him constant intel. Like when he fights those marks in that other chapter with the one where he's got Gerry tied to the chair. Yes, we named him Gerry because it's spelled
right
Gar way. Yeah, that chapter, he ends up taking out a bunch of mercs, killing them. And but it's because Bill is controlling the drone, watching these guys with thermal and seeing where they're coming in, how they're breaching the building, and how they're making their way to his position. And this is what happens. It's thing called escalation, because he's dealing with the gangs, and then the gangs realize what they're dealing with, and they begin hiring mercenaries, real military guys, to fight him. And he doesn't like that. Neither does Bill and his other partner, because they're like, these are guys that served. And he goes, yeah, but they made a choice here. They're making a conscious choice to work with bad guys. And so I don't care anymore. I'm not going to have a problem taking him down.
That's right. Okay, guys. So again, the comic is Vindicated Inc. You can find it and support it, please, over at fundmycomic.com/campaign/363/vindicated-inc. It's got a lot of great tiers, a lot of great perks with those tiers, in addition to the graphic novel itself, and a lovely bonus for all those interested. You get to read chapter 1 and 3 for free from the overall final product. Any final things you'd like to share?
We haven't played the trailer. Do you want to play that real quick?
Oh, yes. Why am I forgetting that? Thank you so much. Yes, we shall.
Now, the story behind this is no, not that. That's the original interview. This is the new trailer. And by the way, point out the fact that is reviews by Chuck Dixon and Mike Barron.
That's right.
And I'm very proud that these guys love what I'm doing with this book. And not only that, Mike Barron is going to be writing the introduction to the book.
That is awesome. All right, so let's get that playing right now.
Meet the Seattle Vigilante. Like so many comic heroes, this warrior hides his identity. But his identity isn't the only secret he has to keep. After grievous wounds received during combat, Tier 1 operator John Russell begins to recover and comes to terms with his new reality of being an amputee. And as he learns how to use his new prosthetic limb, he finds himself caught up in the bureaucratic red tape that too many wounded veterans experience, the exhausting medboard process. Out of sheer frustration, John takes it out on the criminal scum of the city. But when reality kicks in, John realizes he started something that's having an impact on the greater world around him, and thus
of course it's going to delay a little bit. Sorry, guys.
Has to reevaluate his motives. And
you're using Chrome, aren't you?
Just how far is John willing to go to finish this war he's declared against the criminals in Seattle? And will he even survive? From the creator of ID.
Yep, that is YouTube not wanting to stream it out on a on a very high bandwidth fiber line internet.
W's award-winning graphic novel Code Word Geronimo comes a new story about a different kind of warrior, Vindicated Inc., the first of its kind disabled veteran action hero comic. The Vindicated Inc. graphic novel crowdfunding campaign on fundmycomic.com.
Yep, that's
Shinatsky made that, by the way.
That's that was awesome. I mean, aside from the fact that YouTube didn't want to share it really with everybody else. It was pretty cool.
But Shinatsky did a fantastic job putting that together. Tom stepped in because Dale got sick and wasn't able to do the voiceover for me, lost his voice. And Tom just stepped up, man, and offered to do it. And I went, fuck yeah, go for it. I love Tom's voice. And he did a great job on it. I love the way he read it.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for us guys. Unfortunately, I have to get going for my own stuff here. I want to thank Gerry for coming on to the channel tonight to talk about his book Vindicated Inc. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It is something I was very honored to be able to read and then asked to come on and help edit the book with you. I'm looking forward to the whole next set of stuff that you're doing with that book.
Yeah, the book won't go out to print unless you approve it.
Well, I mean, you're still the guy. It's your story. But yes,
I know, but I trust you so much. I trust you implicitly to make sure that it's the best story.
well,
And
thank you,
so,
because that's what I do. And speaking of best stories, not just to I'm not going to step too much on your thing here,
no,
but
go for it,
this
man.
time slot is going to be kind of a regular thing on this channel. Doing an experiment. If you followed me over on Twitter or you're part of my Patreon or saw in the community tabs here, I'm going to be doing a live show where I and a co-host are going to be reading some screenplays and scripts that have been circulating around Hollywood for some time and some brand new. And we're going to be sharing our thoughts on those scripts on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a show called Scripts on Saturdays. It's an open audition for people who are interested in being a part of that show as a co-host. It's just going to be two people, myself and the co-host. And we're going to try a whole bunch of co-hosts out for as many people that have signed up, which currently is at 9 right now. And you, the audience, are going to pick who you think complements the show the best. And I hope to see you guys all there. I will probably be back next week, probably bring Gerry back on or someone else on to talk something else for the time being. But again, guys, Vindicated Inc. It's definitely a type of comic book story that fits into the indie comic realm that really does give the industry a nice little kick in the butt when it comes to energy and output. Definitely better than the big two that's currently being run right now. And the other part too is that you know where your money's going. It's going directly not just into the book, but into the perks that are coming out. And you've got access to the people behind it that otherwise has been gate kept from you due to basically bureaucracy and fear. So please, guys, go check out Vindicated Inc. now on Fund My Comic. Have a wonderful night for everyone out there. I want to thank Gerry again for gracing us with this. I also want to thank you again for basically writing the story and pitching it out to the world. I think it's a great idea, and I can't wait to see where it goes. We're definitely going to do some follow-ups on this in the future to track it. And I want to wish you all a great night. Gerry, any last final words?
You did say something that I want to correct real quick.
Sure.
I am a combat medic veteran, but not a combat veteran.
Sorry.
And,
Thank you.
No problem. I'm very funny about stolen valor, and I want to make clear that no, I'm not a combat veteran. My buddies are combat veterans. I just didn't get my chance, and it just the Department of Defense, they make the decisions. We go where they tell us, and I didn't get to do it. But a lot of my close friends served in deep combat, and I live vicariously through them. I love their stories.
Well, I appreciate that correction and the clarification there. So, guys, again, Vindicated Inc. Get vindicated by buying this this book and showing
Dave
support
Skippy.
showing support to guys like Gerry out there and everyone else in the indie comic sphere. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And never forget, guys, when it comes to great story, it all starts with the script.